was meant to go to the Himalayas, study there, then why can't I use this time to go inwards by myself without any teachers and really remember my own strength, really gain my own strength, really reconnect with my own guidance? Because it's so easy to let go of that and go and rely on someone else. I just had a conversation which really got me reflecting and thinking about this whole idea of, you know, where we are in our life and how long or how quickly it takes us to get through certain situations or a certain process. And I think it all comes down to comparing ourselves, right, to other people when it's something that we really kind of grow up with. You know, I know so many people get questions like, oh, what's your grade in school? Like, what's the score that you got? This and that person managed to get that grade. Did you get that grade? And I always hear all these stories that people, you know, like people grow up with, and different people have different stories, right? Just even the fact that, for example, you get grades in school, of course, as a kid, you're gonna end up seeing that as, what is my worth? Oh my goodness, like most people got this grade, but I didn't get that grade, and so on and so on. So does it mean I'm not good enough? And I feel like it's just kind of engraved in us in a way, in so many of us. And so it's kind of difficult to not do that, to not compare ourselves when we are older. But then we get older and it's not something that we necessarily need to do. And I think probably depends what career path we choose to go down on. But, you know, so often we find that we compare ourselves and it's really just not doing us any good. It's actually the opposite. And when I started thinking about it, you know, the conversation was about how myself and my friend are in a different, it's interesting because we're in similar stages, but we're very different stages of our lives. And it's easy to compare yourself to different people, and I'm not comparing myself to that certain person, but it got me thinking about how often it's so easy to compare ourselves to different people. And I started thinking about how I was really putting myself down a lot of the time, especially like the past couple of years when I've been going through a lot, and my whole life has changed completely. I mean, yeah, so much has changed, so much has shifted. You know, a lot of the time when I would feel a little low, I would feel like, why is it taking me so long? Why is it taking me so long to get through this? Or why have I not healed this yet? Why is this still coming up? Why am I still not having my life figured out? You know, why do I still feel like I need to sit with this and work through it, and on and on and on and on, right? And so often the past, especially this month, so often I've been thinking about how actually I'm so really grateful, and I feel like the word grateful has just been like, it's just really lost its meaning in a way, because I feel like it's been used so often without extra thought, and it's just been kind of like used here and there, just because we're told to be grateful and this and that, right? So wherever we go on social media, it's like, be grateful for what you have, and it's almost like we get so used to that word that it kind of like loses its meaning in a way, you know. But yeah, I have been feeling really like I've been sitting with it, and I've been grateful for the fact that it did take me a while. And the biggest thing is that it was actually me choosing in a way to take that long, because I was so keen on healing different aspects, on healing, you know, grieving my old life that has changed. And, you know, I was in a long-term relationship and I had a home in London, and different aspects have completely shifted, you know, like from where they were to where they are now. And so of course it's a big deal. And a lot of the time when we compare ourselves to someone else, they're completely different situations as well, you know, but then we still compare ourselves to, for example, someone that's like so far ahead of us. I mean, what is ahead of us? You know, everybody has a different process in their life. Everybody is a different age. Like, you know, a lot of the time the person you would compare yourself to is, like, for example, much older than you, or they had a completely different life experience to you, or they're focusing on something completely different to what's important to you, right? And I've been realizing that I've been really sitting with the fact that I really want to heal that within me. I knew I'm not ready to go and move on with my life to a completely different. I mean, I've done a lot in the past 2 years, but there were certain things I didn't really want to move on with, because I really wanted to sit with it, and I really wanted to help my body and myself to grieve a certain aspect of my life, my old self, in order to then be able to move on while I'm ready to move on, when I'm ready to move on, instead of just kind of, in a way, running away from how I was feeling, and then a couple of years down the line it hitting me really strongly because it's not something that I looked at. So I was very aware of that for the past couple of years, and it's something that really helped me to come back whenever I would question it, whenever I would feel like I'm comparing myself, whenever I would feel like I'm putting myself down. It would usually be the fact that I knew, I was very conscious that I wanted to really work through whatever is arising, no matter how difficult it was. And don't get me wrong, like, going through that process, because it's easy to numb it down. It's so easy to numb it down. I could have easily completely ignored, you know, the feelings that were in me. I could have easily completely ignored it and be okay within a month or two after my life shifting, and, you know, numbing those emotions, those feelings with everything around me, you know, with, I don't know, watching Netflix, playing, just whatever, you know. And don't get me wrong, there was a point in my life in the past couple of years where I really needed time with my friends, and I really needed to have fun. Honestly, I simply needed to go out there and party and have fun. But it was a very specific time, place, and people where I could do it. And for me, that was Taiwan. Going back to Taiwan, I used to live there like six years ago, and going back there, it really felt like the place just, it's a place that helps me heal in a way. The same thing happened 6 years ago, and it's very interesting how, again, very similar thing happened last year when I went back to Taiwan. It helped me through this process, you know, but what it gave me is not only the place itself, but the people that are there, and the community, and the type of people that were there, and also me feeling really safe and held. That then led me on to really wanting to have fun and just let go. And I remember the first time I just let go and I just had fun, and I was like, wow, I freaking needed this. I needed this so much. And, you know, I was also wondering, and I was a little worried. I was like, is this just me running away? But it wasn't. Now I mean, I don't think it was. It feels like I really needed that. And it wasn't, you know, what it looked like for me was I would go and have fun, but then I would also, after that, really sit with myself as well. So it was like an up and down process. And it's very interesting. It is really interesting to like look back at it now, because I'm really I'm really happy that I got to experience what I got to experience there. I really feel like I needed that, because otherwise I would have just been sitting with myself constantly pretty low, you know. And the possibility of me just letting go really gave me this balance of being able to sit with what I was going through, really diving into how I felt, which a lot of the time looked like crying my eyes out, you know, speaking to my friends like, what am I doing? Like, am I doing the right thing? And why am I still feeling like this? Or I thought I healed this, why is this still coming up? And, you know, all these different questions. And then there's this other side of it where I could just let go and just forget about it for a minute and just have fun and be like, you know what, it's okay, like, I've got this. And this month now feels really powerful to me, because I was meant to be doing a Kundalini teacher training actually this month. It's 15th of September, so I would literally be halfway through my teacher training. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to record an episode about me cancelling that whole journey, because it's been massive, it's been major, and it really triggered so many things in me that I feel like I have been working through. And now I kind of feel that it's me being able to look at those things from a completely different point of view and with a completely different energy, like this new energy that is coming up and arising after I've been doing all that work. And it's almost like one of those things that you don't want to jinx, you know. Like, I grew up in Poland. I didn't grow up in Poland. I was born in Poland, you know, growing up in the Polish culture. There is this massive thing of, you don't want to jinx it, don't say this. If something's going right, don't jinx it. And it's always kind of like something that you hear. And I want to get rid of that thought and that idea, because we should be able to celebrate the good things without the worry that we might jinx something, you know. And it's actually a really sad thing when you think about it. Like, it's a really sad way to look at things, because of course we want to be able to celebrate things. We want to be able to celebrate our friends. So if we celebrate our friends, why can't we celebrate ourselves, right? And so anyway, me cancelling the whole journey of going and studying Kundalini, it really triggered this thing where I would question myself, am I failing? It feels like a failure of me not going. Like, who am I without going to this? And I realized that I've attached myself to this idea of going and doing this Kundalini teacher training. This is something that I've planned for months. And at the beginning it felt completely right. But then down the line, something shifted. And I will talk about it more at some point, because it's actually pretty incredible how our bodies tell us. And sometimes we just don't listen because of how much we are in our head, and of how much we worry that something will be a failure, or we will look or feel like a failure if we decide to quit or to walk away, even though our whole body is telling us, no, do not go, do not do this. And me really sitting with that feeling when I decided not to go, I cried for ages. And not only was I crying because I decided to cancel, I also felt terrible physically. I was in a hospital and all these things were going on. So it was like a low point. You know, the time that I was meant to be on a plane to India, I was in the hospital. The time I was meant to change flights in India, I was in an ambulance going to a different hospital. It's crazy. There were like these timelines timeline of me in India, timeline of me here. And yeah, it's actually quite fascinating to think about it this way, because it's like, which timeline do we tap into? And I knew with my whole body that the timeline of me in India was not the right one for me at that point. And even though this one felt so much more difficult, I knew it was right. And yeah, so for days after that experience, I really sat with it, and I was like, okay, I mean, there's gotta be a reason for this. There's gotta be a way that I can learn from this experience and take away something big, because it's not happening for no reason. And I remember at one point I decided, you know what, if I already cleared my schedule, the whole month of September, I already cleared it completely because I was meant to go to the Himalayas, study there. I wasn't planning to even open my computer, nothing. Then why can't I use this time to go inwards by myself without any teachers and really remember my own strength, really gain my own strength, really reconnect with my own guidance? Because it's so easy to let go of that and go and rely on someone else. And even though I didn't think I was doing that, I think in a way a lot of us do that to some point, right? And it was this reminder of just really coming back to myself and just stop what you're doing and go within by yourself, because you do have the answers, and it will be okay, and it will work out okay. I mean, if we cannot trust our own guidance, man, then how can we live our life? And especially for me, it's so important. It's something that I've been talking about over and over and over again for years. You got to trust your inner voice, intuition, inner guidance, whatever you want to call it, your gut, whatever. But if we cannot trust this, then how can we live our life? And so the main focus of this month has been to really go inwards, as well as reading, watching documentaries, really studying stuff. But the main thing is to go inwards by meditating, or simply just sitting with my thoughts, just reflecting on what's coming up, really reflecting on what I was going through. It's actually incredible how different I feel just after like not even 15 days of doing that. Yeah, and so going back to this whole idea of how we compare ourselves to where we are in life. Different people have different journeys. Different people go through different things, different experiences. And people have different dreams. Someone who is a very sensitive person will of course need more time to work through something, to really sit with it and really give ourselves this time and space to really be okay with something. Whereas if someone's very like go, they're ready to go and move on to the next thing, whether they're already healed it or not. They're ready to move on. Maybe for them it means that they're just going to come back to this at some point. Maybe it means that they've already worked through it and they're like ready for the next thing. Maybe that then it's not something that they want to use. But then I know myself that this experience, the couple of years, this is major for me. This is major for my whole process. And so how could I be running away from it? How could I be moving on to the next thing? Even if it wasn't running away, but how could I be moving on to the next and the next and the next, when actually physically that thing hasn't been processed fully? And it comes down to, okay, well, maybe I am more sensitive. Maybe I do need more time. Maybe I do need more space and more energy to really work through something. But instead of making myself feel guilty for how long it takes, oh my goodness, I should be grateful because I can really take that thing and really use it in my journey. Trust that whatever's happening is happening for a reason, and also know deep down that I was consciously choosing to really sit with it. And there are situations coming up and up and up and up, like more situations that would trigger a lot in me. And I remember I would spend hours on the phone with my really good friend, and we were laughing about it, like, man, we're giving ourselves these massive therapy sessions, because we were both going for a similar process. And actually it's really helped us diving deep into what was happening, diving deep into how am I looking at this, or how is this making me feel. And a lot of the time when my ego would get triggered and I'm like, why is this person acting like this, I would take a step back and really look at it from a different point of view, look at it from above, be like, okay, hold on, what is a different side to this story? If I'm not looking at it from my point of view, which is looking from my own lens, from my own stories, experiences, emotions, if I could look at it without all these aspects, what does it look like without any of these filters? And it's a hard thing to do. It's hard, but it also is very, very helpful and healing to really look at a situation from different points of view. And when I think about that, all the times when I was comparing myself to other people, wow, like why was I comparing myself to other people when I was doing all this incredible work? Of course my life will look completely different to other people's lives. And so each one of our journeys just takes us somewhere else. And so how can we possibly compare where we are to where someone else is? And a lot of the time, trust me, a lot of the time, if we compare ourselves to someone else, if we look at that person's life, I bet you if we looked at it not through the lens of social media, if we would truly speak to that person has their own problems, that person has their own issues, their own things that they're dealing with, different things that they're dealing with. And it's the same as it is with when we would feel not great in our bodies, for example. Like, looking back, so often I would feel not great in my body. And now I feel really sad about that, because I would compare myself to people, but then I realized, I remember at one point I had this realization that came through to me, and I was like, okay, I wish I could have this or I could have that, but then if I had a choice, if I could choose to have my body, my features, everything, or this other perfect body and features, would I really choose the perfect one, whatever it means, And the answer was no. How could I? And I wonder how many people would actually choose this perfect, whatever the perfect is, body, without our own features. And there is also this question of why is it happening? And who am I to be saying, instead of saying why is it happening, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? This is only me sharing my own experience, and there are people that go for experiences that are really difficult. So whenever we find ourselves comparing ourselves to someone else, just remember that everybody's going through difficulties. Everybody's going through something, and even if they try to make it easy. And a lot of the time, people that I know that are going through stuff, the way they look on Instagram is completely different to what they are actually like in real life, what they are going through in real life. The tips, the recommendations they are posting on their social media, like their Insta story. And a lot of the time you can really tap into that and you can feel, is it legit or is it not legit? I feel like it's so easy to want to be the teacher and think that we're not in our ego by sharing something, by sharing a tip on how to do something. but are we really not in our ego? And an ego is not a bad thing, of course, but are we really sharing from a place of love and whatever, like however cheesy it sounds? Or are we sharing this because we feel that we're better than someone? Yeah. So that's it for today, I guess. Thank you so much for listening, and I would love to hear your thoughts. If you're watching this or listening to this, I would love to hear what you think about it. And do you compare yourself often to other people, and what helps you to really step back from that space of comparing and really come back to your own self and trusting that what you're doing and where you are is exactly what you need to be doing and where you need to be right now? Yeah, let me know. I am sending you lots of love. Bye.